The Myrland Times, bridging the gap with a sword on our back. Welcome to the Myrland Times. I'm your host, Adventus. Before we begin the broadcast, I must mention I am a former member of Integrity who were once allies with Legion. I later left Integrity and the alliance known as the Collective for Brigands when the alliance started to break apart. My history inherently shapes my perspective on these entities, so I'm bringing that up now since it's relevant to today's guest and the topics we cover. Technically, I'm his guest, since we spend most of our time at his guild stronghold, but I digress. Today we will be talking to the leader of Bad Company, Boden. In the interview, we discuss his involvement with the now defunct guild Legion, and how that experience shaped the creation of Bad Company. We also converse about Bad Company's goal of being a successful mercenary guild, and what it means to be a responsible leader. Boden and I do have a few fights, but for the most part, we keep to civil discourse. If you appreciate this content, please subscribe. Now on with the interview.
All right, I'm Boden. A lot of people remember me from Legion. I was one of the primary shot callers for Legion and one of the highest ranking officers over there, and kind of ran the guild for the last year or so of its life. I'm the captain of the Bad Company. Bad Company really has no rank. It has a captain and it has full members and it has recruits. And that's about it. So I wouldn't say captain means a whole hell of a lot, but I still am the primary shot caller, I guess, for a larger scale fight. And, the founder of Bad Company.
Tell me about how you go from Legion to this, or you can even just go into Legion a little bit, because I think that really does play a lot into what Bad Company is today. Because you guys still kind of have the same slogan, join or die, right?
Yeah,
Do you feel like this is a different guild, or is it kind of the same but?
So, I'm an old founding member of Legion. Probably one of the first 10 that was ever recruited from the early alpha. Worked my way up through the ranks in Legion. I was just one of those guys that logged on every day and fought every day, and got through the ranks there quickly. And then, sometime late in the alpha, I guess, and before the beta, I kind of emerged as one of the 3 shot callers that were in Legion, and I was doing a lot of the larger scale stuff. So that's where a lot of people really got to know me, and a lot of it is just me. Screaming, "Shut the fuck up" in comms, and "I don't want to hear about your horses," and "Put your fucking bows away," and
I remember that.
things like that. So a lot of people remember me from those situations.
From an outsider point of view, I just want to say you're almost more synonymous with Legion than Bigness, because you are the voice of the guild. Whenever other guilds are going on rooms with you, you're the voice they hear. So you became
Yeah, the thing with Vic is very active in the alpha, and then not so much in the beta. And then by the time launch hit, he was between jobs, so he was focusing on that. So that's really when I kind of took over in earnest, is right end of the beta and right at the launch period. We had other officers though too, and Legion had actually gone through a couple splits. Nightfall was a Legion break off early on, before launch. This was in the beta. And so that gutted a lot of our oldest veterans when that happened. I stuck with Legion. One of the main reasons is I have a lot in common with Vic. We're both Marines. So, and I wouldn't just turn my back on another Marine for some video game kid. So I did not. And I stuck with Legion, stuck it out, and we rebuilt it, to be honest, stronger than it ever was previously. We were kind of an elitist 20-man guild before that would flex, but we weren't able to win the fights that we wanted to take with that. We were banging on Meduli's door every day and getting zerged by 60, 70 people. And I told the guys, hey, our 20-man, elitist group is going to win these fights. We need 50. We actually need to plus up. We need to train some people. And if we really want to be competitive at that scale. And some people were cool with it. Some people were not cool with it. And I think a lot of it was, a lot of people were already burnt out at that point. That was probably a year and a half into the game. People playing 40 hours a week fucking for the last year. And they did not have, a lot of people didn't have the patience to train new bros. And, because it takes time and you put a lot of effort into some people and then they just stop playing the game. You never see them again. So you never know. Every 5 guys you train, you might maintain 1 in the long term. And that's probably being pretty optimistic odds wise, to be honest. This game, more people quit this game because of the game than ever quit the guild, when we were Legion or now Bad Company. So, but the game does attract people pretty regularly.
So you mentioned like fighting Kodo, and that was kind of like, again, from not a complete outsider, but another member of the collective. That I thought a big part of our identity was being adversaries to Kodo. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, we at the time back then there was probably maybe 4 big alliances on the server, and we were one of them. And every other alliance was horrified that one or the other alliance would gang up with it'd be 2v1 basically, and they'd lose that fight. So there was always kind of a strange power dynamic and a mutually assured destruction dynamic that was going on in the server. And honestly, a lot of those old alliances have fallen down since then, but new ones have popped back up and kind of maintain that same status quo. Seems like there's usually at least 4 running around, which is not a bad spot for the server, to be honest, because it promotes conflict and not just one singular Zerg dominating the server or anything like that. But yeah, we definitely were adversarial with Kodo. I mean, they were our closest neighbor. The other big force that we could show up with as many swinging dicks as we could muster, and they would do the same. We'd fight it out. Try not to talk too much shit. There were old agreements that were made in the alpha with Kodo about asset defense and stuff like that. But we still were always going to be open PvP with them. But we weren't opposed to necessarily working with them if it was against a mutual enemy either, as long as it was coordinated in advance. But the big thing, what we were trying to do back then is we wanted to be the first guys to take Kodo on an open field on their turf, max force. And, we made some attempts as Legion. We'd show up with 15, we'd show up with 20, we'd show up with 25. We'd bring integrity, we'd show up with the whole fucking alliance, we'd bring 50, and we got very, very close, and we had some very, very good drag out fucking fights, and then everything clicked a bit after launch, and the collective as an alliance got a little bit stronger. We rolled up with 67, and we fucking beat them several times. And that's really what we were trying to do. That's what everybody was trying to do. It was just
I was there for some of those wins just outside of Meduli, that some fights you called a fight.
Yeah, I mean,
and we had them on the run. It was amazing.
And if you think about it, this was well before the ACT. This was well before any of the other guilds had actually come down and taken that fight and won against the full force Kodo 4. So we wanted to be the first to do it, and we fucking did it. People weren't happy about it. We went basically into full warfare status with Kodo. All gentlemental agreements were thrown out the window after that, for the most part. And we had some allies that were bucking up to them as well all the time. So it added some extra strain. That was that. We did it, and moved on from there. After that, unfortunately, we took a dip in activity, and in turn, everybody kind of turned inward to PvE and just making themselves rich while the server was pretty dead, and it was easy to do. There's very little PvP when there's 600 people spread across the entire server. So, and then that caused friction within the alliance.
Yeah.
People were competing over fucking trolls and other bullshit and resources, getting in fights over that. I'm getting 20, 30 DMs a day about people fucking bitching and moaning. This guy called me a pussy or whatever. And I had no patience for any of it at that point. So when people said, "Oh, we're going to drop out of the alliance," I would just say, "All right, see you later." And
I remember that. Yeah, I was, and it kind of touches on what you said about like Kodo. Kodo is still massive, and was, massive back then, and it's a truly imposing adversary, right, to go up against. And some people just get burned out because within integrity at the time there were certain members that were just, once we went into full like on warfare with them, they were done. Like after a bit they were just sick of going out and getting killed by a Zerg.
Yeah, it's tough.
And like you said, you start to turn inward whenever you're you're up against a wall or a huge force, and then it's hard to keep alliance together with that sort of pressure on the outside. And then like the other factors you brought in. So instead of being united and expanding and coming up to match that force, it started to crumble and turn on each other. Is what I was getting from it.
Yeah, honestly, there was so little external PvP that it turned internal. effectively. So, we're running in the same territories that we definitively control, and so were they, and we were PvEing in those territories and traveling through those territories. So it just bred friction, and I didn't have enough time, and I wasn't around enough to smooth it all over, nor did I care to be honest. So, if I have a 50-man guild and the 15-man guild ally has a problem, I don't really care. Just because if I lose them, it doesn't matter. I'll find another 15-man guild. There's plenty of those out there. If it's a 50-man guild, though, that's pretty active, then that's a different story. But a lot of it, we kind of looked at it from the leadership perspective and the collective as this is what we're trying to do. What are you bringing to the table to do it? Because the cost of the protection of these numbers has a cost, basically. Because a lot of people, I got just as much flack internally in Legion from getting new allies. And and it's the opposite side of the coin where people are like, oh, everybody's fucking allied. Every time I ride through wherever, it's all fucking allied. People hated that too. So it's you can't win one way or the other. So it's really just managing the balance of what keeps the most people happy. Lessons learned from Legion, and there were a couple of them, and those lessons for me were having a separate officer corps in your guild. All it does is contribute to elitism and people playing by themselves, and then splits in the guild. That's all it actually contributes to. So once you start segregating people, and there's the cool guys and the not cool guys, eventually the cool guys think they're too cool for the not cool guy, and they go off and do their own thing. And I've seen it happen a couple times, and I've just seen those officer chats just evolve to shit shows and popularity content. And so I didn't want to do that. So basically, when we formed up Bad Company, there are no officers. I've got some guys that I trust that I give a little bit more control over, like the Discord and stuff like that too. But pretty much all the guys that I know that are men at arms, they can invite people to the guild. They can kick people from the guild. It's completely at their discretion, and they're just full members that I've known for a long time.
Can you line that out for me real quick? Like what the rankings, like when you join as a recruit, what are you called?
You're called a recruit.
And
So
then
basically,
after
we have
that,
recruits, we have men at arms, and we've got the captain. I'm the
okay.
captain. Everybody else, every full member is a men at arms, which means they get a full vote if anything goes to a vote that I just don't decide. And recruits don't have voting privileges, and it's basically just a trial period. And if we play with somebody for a couple weeks and they're pretty active and they seem pretty cool and no major drama, they're in. If I recruit somebody and I never see them jump in comms for 2 weeks, they're out. Or they've never got on in a roam or never dueled with us, never played with us, never done team fights, anything like that. So we just get rid of them.
So all this equals less headache is what is.
Yeah. So
what I'm
the whole
hearing.
idea behind Bad Company was no officers. I just let people sort shit out on their own. If they have problems, I'll just drop them into a channel to fight it out and figure out who let the gods decide who's right or who's not. Most of the time, the fight stops immediately when the two offenders are just stuck in that channel by themselves. So it's usually a good way to diffuse it. And then no ally. That's number 2. And I realize that costs us fights. There's fights we just won't be able to take. We won't be able to put up enough people on our own to take some of the fights that we might want to take, like we used to back in the day. However, we can put up pretty significant numbers when we need to. 30 plus is not out of the realm of possibility for Bad Company right now. But it is what it is. If we're fighting any of the bigger alliances, we'll probably get smashed. Just through sheer numbers alone. I don't think I can attack Medulla anymore in earnest with Bad Company and actually expect to win that fight. But without the allies, there's a lot less drama, and at least everybody that's in Bad Company, I can help control. Whereas when it's an outside, officer in a third-party guild that's in an alliance, I have no direct control over those guys. Probably don't even know them, never spoken to them, but they can produce headache, basically, for me.
Yeah.
From outside my
It's
own
just
guild.
another thing you have to manage.
Yeah, managing
I
personalities
actually
and playing nice with others.
like based on like what experience I did have with you guys because we did roams, right? But like you said, like you don't really like know the people because they're in different guilds. You don't really truly like you kind of build a bond through battles, but as you could see, that only goes so far after a certain amount of things happen, time and other conflicts come up. Um, But I think Bad Company just seems like the natural conclusion of what Legion really wanted to be at the end of the day. They didn't want you guys didn't want to manage all that shit.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
honestly,
it was
it's
like
similar to how we started as well. When we started
it's in
off,
your slogan, join or die.
yeah, we stood by ourselves for a long time. Integrity was an old ally from the Alpha Day, basically when they first formed. They were Tendremic Empire before they were Integrity, and Tendremic Empire was our first ally, and then Integrity was probably our second ally. So, uh, even then, that caused flack back in the day. People would see Integrity and Vada, and they'd be like, "Oh, they're wearing steel. I want to kill." As psychopathic as that sounds, it was a common problem that we used to have to quash when we were in Legion. It's like, hey guys, we have one ally in this game. Don't fucking kill them. And that was still problematic back in the day. So, this is kind of
Well, now you can kill them.
now we can. Yeah, we're just trying to stay on the periphery of all of it. I do talk to a lot of people. I know a lot of people because I've been playing the game since the beginning. So, all the guild leaders of all the big guilds that are out there right now, I've probably fought them at one point or another, talked to them at one point or another. So, I keep those channels open for the most part because what we're looking to do now is just be the third party that's on the server. Just that we're a third party that's not affiliated politically. We'll fight for anybody as long as they pay. So basically, that's literally as far as it goes. So, and we'd like to get to a point where people just pay us to stay home.
Yeah, I have my own. We all have our own way that we enjoy this game, and everyone just has to respect. Everyone can respect that.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons as well why I didn't just rebuild Legion, because that was an option, and I could have done that, and just made Legion active again and be the boogeyman on the server for a lot of these other groups. But I did want to. I wasn't going to completely forego old alliances because of that. So Legion was more of an empire-esque guild. We planned on holding some terrain and owning the town and doing our thing. But since I didn't want to do the allies thing anymore, I didn't want to completely do a 180 on the old school Legion, break all old alliances, and do that. And my intent when I formed Bad Company was not to scoop up all of the former Legion bro. That was my intent initially, was to recruit some new kids, teach them how to play the game, and then weaponize that Zerg for profit, basically. And I knew it was going to be a long, hard road and take a while. And then I made Bad Company, and fucking 50 fucking Legion guys instantaneously joined. So that's
if you build it, they
right.
will come.
So basically, we went that route. And I also, I didn't know how we were going to start off, so I didn't want people talking shit on Legion. We had a fierce reputation for a very long time, so I didn't want and people would say all the time, oh, Legion's not what they used to be. Like, I didn't want to hear that shit, so I figured I'd start from scratch. And our name is Bad Company, so when people call us bad, it's kind of a meme
It's
at this
built
point.
into the
Yeah,
name.
so I'm like, yeah,
Man,
man,
wow, you built
we
in
would have
immunity.
fucking called it Good Company if we were good. It is
Yeah,
what it is.
that's a big brain move right there. I had a little amateur beer league esports team for Heroes of Storm, and I called us Team Brain Dead for the very same reason. Like, you can't shit talk us because we already made fun of ourselves in our name, buddy. Have you got like any interested parties? Like, you don't have to name them, but like, how is that looking as far as
Every
like?
major alliance has reached out to me already.
Okay. Um, okay, so how does that work though? Like, do you have a bidding period or something? Like, let's say two
Honestly,
opposing
to keep it
forces,
simple, what I just tell people is whoever pays me first gets me. That's it.
and they can't the other so let's say one guild pays you, right, to attack another guild or whatever. Can the other guild then turn around and pay you to stop attacking them? Like,
No,
or do
I
you
wouldn't. I
have like
wouldn't
a certain
accept it.
amount
I would
of
finish the contract, whatever I agreed to the first time, and if they wanted to pay me the next day to fight the guys that I was fighting for the day before, that's fine. I'll take their money too.
all right, cool.
So, but I'm not gonna. I know a lot of people do that, and oh, I'll pay you double the switch sides right now or something along those
Yeah,
lines. But
some Game of Thrones
yeah,
shit.
I'll honor my word because you're only as good as your word, and that would be probably the last time
Exactly.
we ever get hired. So that the idea is we'll probably fight people that will then hire up, that will then fight again later, and and just go back and forth. But we just want to remain out there as that entity that is available. So if you get caught off your time zone and you're in a 50v7 and you need fucking 25 more idiots to show up right now, we want to be that guy. We get that DM and we agree to terms. You pay me, and we ride, and that's basically it. And win or lose, we'll ride and go die for you if we need to. And I have a feeling that when TC first drops, a lot of people will probably want to stand on their own, but we're just going to third party every siege that we hear about, one way or the other. So, and I don't expect to necessarily be able to win those fights, but if I show up with 30 mounted archers and shoot the shit out of your backline and blow up all your siege weapons, then next time you might think better about paying me.
So I did have a question. I did read your contract law stuff.
Yeah.
And so I like that you mentioned loot, because you have very simple rules, but they're probably the most important rules as far as loot and how to behave. You need something of those two things, or you're gonna have problems. It's preventative to write things down, right? People read it oh, that's the deal. But the spoils of war will be divided. Individual loot will be a free for all. What is it? How do you define the spoils of war exactly?
So if we take a contract, let's say for 5,000 gold to participate in one fight, maybe a TC siege defense, something like that. A customer pays us 5,000 gold. That gets divided between all the members that participate in that fight equally. So there's no skim.
So that's a contract. The spoils of war is a contract.
For the most part, yeah. And that applies to mostly just big money items as well. Typically if we're roaming in groups and stuff like that and we fucking net a gold ruber, everybody that's in that group typically gets a piece of whatever that is, if it's something huge. When it comes to individual loot, even loot and chronite sets and shit off the ground or whatever, I leave that to the individual. They can scoop it up. They can work it out amongst themselves. Some guys are loot goblins. Some guys are not. And over the course of a fight, I'm not going to argue about, 100 gold worth of shit. If we're talking about thousands and thousands of gold worth of shit, then we just try and be fair about it. So we have a rolling system. We random 100 for things. We split things evenly, whatever the people in the group all agree to, one way or the other. So that's really how it works. And then everyone's an equal member. Yeah, we don't skim things off the top one way or the other. Even if we are doing boss kills and stuff like that, we just divide up everything equally for the people that were there. There's no guild chunk. There's no guild fund or anything like that. And we did a bit of that.
Oh, so the resources that you get off the materials from a boss and stuff.
Yeah, even if we do it as a group effort, we just split it evenly between all the members there. People want a piece, they ask and they get an equal portion. And that's really how it goes. There's no there's no guild bank that I'm filling up at the end of the day trying to get myself personally rich.
The shares, this part, so it's a 50% share for if you recruit, so you're in that short trial period, they get a 50% share. What if they're also a support character? Do they get a full share?
They get a full share, yeah.
Okay, cool. How does the extra half share work though?
So I basically just divide, and let's say I have 10 mages. That would basically count as 15 guys. So I would just do the math slightly differently, because a lot of it is we are very foot fighter centric in this guild, one way or the other. We always have been. We were in fucking Legion 2. So things that we're actually missing that we need are, we need more full mounted builds, and it's a more expensive build to run, especially for big fuck off fights. So they should be entitled to a little bit more money at the end of that contract. So, if it's a 5,000 gold contract, everyone that attends is going to get 50 gold. The guys getting a share and a half are going to get 75. And I'll just do the math accordingly, one way or the other, because they're filling a niche that we need for that particular event. If we have a group of fucking 40 guys and we only have 5 mages, I'm going to need another 5 mages. So convincing people to switch off their meta foot fighter to go to their mage that they don't really play that much, there's a small financial incentive to do that. If I need a bunch of elementalists because we're getting a third party to fight and we want to fireball the fuck out of them and not actually get in a definitive foot fight, and if I don't have enough of them, we use that as an incentive for people to play those builds on those contract fights, basically. So that way we can use them accordingly. Now we have to fight. We have to put some action in this video.
Okay. Shit.
Put your goddamn bow away.
Yes, sir. Oh, this is gonna be so bad. It's gonna be a spicy interview fight. What do you think makes a good leader, Boden?
In my personal opinion, consistency is probably one of the biggest things.
Consistency, like elaborate.
Consistency of personality, mood. You know, a lot of people lose their minds when things aren't going their way, and that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So I try and be the guy that you know where I stand on things, basically. People know how I'm going to react to things when things happen, for the most part, and I kind of try and maintain that. And for my time in the military, that was one of the things that I appreciated the most in some leaders, was that they were always the same guy, and you know, they weren't my friend one day and then my staff NCO or officer the next day. You know, so they were always kind of, you know, I knew how to deal with them every time I approached them, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that can catch you off guard for sure. I've dealt with some people like that in my personal life at work and stuff.
And then I think a big thing is just respect too. I don't treat people like shit, even if they're acting like shit. Most of the time, I'll try and treat people with respect, give people chances. Good fight.
Ooh.
And you know, I maintain that. You know, if we lose a fight or something like that, I don't shit talk people after the fight and say, "Hey, we lost this fight because you suck," or anything like that. You'll never hear that stuff from me, because I look at it. Any endeavor that we do that I lead, if we fail, it is my fault, 100%. So, you know, I take responsibility for those things, and I take personal responsibility for a lot of those things.
I should probably do this every time I do an interview. By the time I do like 5, I'll be a decent
back
fighter.
Up to speed. Good fight.
So we're talking about dueling. So who do you think in your guild right now is like your best fighter? In a 1v1 situation, like we'll just
probably Mozek or Svalin.
Mozek.
Yeah.
Mozek.
Yep.
I think he won the tournament.
Yeah, we had a little internal tournament with about 30 guys, and Mozek came out on top.
A bad company tournament, 1v1.
It was 1v1, and then it was 2v2s as well. He won both brackets.
Nice. I'm way better in team fights than I am. Like we had some of those before, where we do little 1v1, 2v2s, and I would always be at the bottom of a 1v1. But somehow, you know, in a 2v2, I could turn things around.
It's a different game. You know, that's where other stuff
it's a completely different
more.
game.
As soon as you scale things up, situational awareness is fucking huge. And obviously, you can be brain dead in duel if you're just staring at one guy the entire time. But you know, exploiting opportunities in team fight is a different skill set. You know, and some people, it's the second they get in a fight with somebody, they tunnel vision into that duel effectively, which is the exact opposite thing that you want to do in an actual team fight, because that's how you get your skull split from the guy right behind. The best people in team fights, you know, will literally bounce from guy to guy, just slapping people directly in the back, you know, and moving on and actually finishing kills and stuff like that. Never get tied up in duels, never tunnel vision, have very good situational awareness of the bat. And
yeah, I guess that's where my strength is, and that doesn't. You can't really apply that in a 1v1 because you're just looking at
because if
I'm looking at my teammate, I'm looking at what he's looking like. I'm looking at the other two guys. I'm looking at everything that's going on. So I can actually use
it's a different game, and but it's the more important game, to be honest. So you know, anybody can roll a Thurcal with max stig and max damage bonus, and get a flake sword and go to Fab. You know, be a flake Fabio and Fab at the dueling ring, but that doesn't scale well in team fights at the end of the day. So team fights need a little bit more of a different skill set, but you still need to be able to parry. You still need to know your weapon ranges. You still need to know a couple tricks. It doesn't hurt anybody, you know. I do a couple XLs and stuff like that, and it helps you win fights, catches people off guard too, in some of those bigger fights. So that's mostly what I look at, you know, just solid fundamental on players and the ability to work as a team, which is honestly tough. These days, it's probably the toughest part on the server, especially when you have a bunch of veterans that are very capable killers in their own right, but sometimes they're not the best team players in the world. So it's something that we've been actively working on, actually, and you know, trying to get that synergy down.
So, Vada, do you still kind of consider that your home city? Or...
I mean, for me personally, yeah. But I wouldn't say we control Vada or anything like we did in the Legion days. You know, we lived out of there before. We live all over the place. You know, the whole idea behind Bad Company is just I wanted to keep a force of people playing the game, not necessarily living in Vada and playing the game. So, you know, we have strongholds all over the map. People play out of the jungle. People play out of the Riser Forest. People play out of here at R1. We got strongholds in the Fab area. We have strongholds in the Tindrum area. All over the fucking place, really. Honestly, there's probably at least 16 or 17 throughout the guild, and we have stuff scattered all over the place and small groups scattered all over the place. And I'll do a big PvP call if there's a fight worth having that we need max numbers for. But if not, the local groups try and handle it. And the whole intent is just to keep people actively playing the game, building their characters, making money, getting that bankroll, dueling, fighting, becoming better players overall.
So speaking of like homes, so we're in like what looks like kind of your headquarters as of right now, like very close to where Legion operate out of. Um, do you feel like, that whole thing you guys have going on with Low, do you feel like you're shitting where you eat kind of in a sense, by having a conflict so close to home, or?
I mean, I like conflict close to home, to be honest.
But will that prevent you from being able to like fulfill, like, do you think that would help prevent you from fulfilling contracts if like you have to worry about getting out of your home region to mobilize or anything like that
The amount
with
the
that conflict
amount of
going on?
worry that I have about the Low guild is zero.
They said something very similar about you guys, so that's good to hear.
I don't think we have lost a fight to Low since Low was formed, so I'm not scared at all, to be honest. So, not too worried about it. I mean, so that's one of the things with no allies. Everyone's our enemy, literally everyone. So it's no different than anywhere else, to be honest. The Monkeys Village is right across over there at the land break. We've fought them since day one. I know they've mostly moved up north now. Blackout lives across the plains. Empire lives across the plains. MKRG lives across the plains. There's groups of Mythic guys out here. There's Insidious guys out here. Every single person we see that is not green tagged is an enemy. So it's no different than anywhere else. Could we probably dominate Vada if we moved into Vada in full force? Yeah, but I mean, I'm not really interested in fucking town fighting in the graveyard ever again. I did plenty of
Now it kind of holds you in place
right,
too, which is not something you want
and
to
I
do.
did plenty of that. And Vada's not a terrible spot, to be honest. It does have some resources nearby, but it's not a great spot either. So I don't want a bunch of people quitting because they're stuck in. A lot of guys will just log in, sit in town all day, ask what's going on for a half an hour, and then they'll log off. And that's kind of the nature of town life in general. Whereas when you're actually out here, on the map away from town, you're not just standing around, you're typically doing something. So that's why most of our stuff is near something, a resource point, a rise or camp, something to do. And that's why it's good to have people spread out doing those things, because it keeps them actively engaged in the game instead of just, waiting on their phone, waiting for that PvP call so they can actually log. And a lot of Legion stuff did devolve to that later. There's probably 10 or 15 guys that would not be online until they saw that PvP call, and then they'd jump in, which is good to have. But it's frustrating from a leadership standpoint, because then they don't have armor, they don't have weapons, they don't have horses, they haven't been fucking playing the game. So you have to fully outfit those guys to actually get the use out of them, and that gets tiring after a point.
It does. Yeah.
So
I've been a part of that.
Yep, and there's a lot less of that here. Just because, like I said before, a lot of the guys are veteran players, they're self-sufficient.
Do you know of any other like merc guilds out there?
I mean, there's a few. I kind of modeled a lot of this after the Bad Company thing. CTX had disappeared when I formed Bad Company, and I felt like it kind of left a gap on the server. And CTX is a merc force. However, I think they're more well known as just a completely unaffiliated, no allies force that will fight anybody, third party anybody, and will fight with anybody. And when they disappeared, I felt like it kind of left a gap on the server, that there wasn't really a competitor to that, or something with a similar code of ethics, or what have you. So I figured I'd try and fill that gap and maybe scoop up some of those players that were kind of left to the wind. CTX is back, so they're picking up players again too. We've scrimmed against them, and we'll probably continue to. And so there's Bad Company, there's CTX, and there's some smaller merc guilds I've seen advertised out there. But honestly, nobody that I've really seen enforced, nobody that I've really seen with 20 plus that they can put on the field regularly, besides ourselves and CTX.
So you mentioned ethics there. Do you guys have ethics? Like, when it comes to engagement, people you see like untagged, small guild, anything.
I leave it completely up to the discretion of the player.
So each individual can one person can be like, I want to kill that guy, and it's just totally cool.
It depends.
If they,
If basically if I'm in the group and I say we're killing this man, then we're killing that man.
Okay.
And that's basically it. But when guys are running around doing their thing, if they don't want a PvP, they're welcome to fucking let somebody pass on by. Most guys that we have will shoot on some. And honestly, and I highly encourage, because in this game, if you are the aggressor, you're in a much better position than if you are the defender. Almost every single fucking time. So as soon as your horse eats that first arrow to the face for 90, you'd want to be shooting that arrow, not receiving right off the bat, because it keeps your options open. So
yeah.
And most of bad company is of that mindset. They're going to aggressively attack and try and be the aggressor in every engagement that they can be, because it's a more advantageous place to be. And honestly, every time I've walked up to a group of 2 guys in the sewers or something like that when I'm solo, thinking like, oh, maybe I'll see if they're friendly, they fucking attack. So I would much rather walk up to them and start splitting one skull before they even know I'm there, and start off the engagement that way. And that's basically how we play it. But I mean, I leave it up to the player. I'm not going to get pissed at people if they let people live or anything like that. But I just let them handle it and be as murder hobo-y as they want to be.
Yeah, I was a murder hobo for a bit there, and it was for the exact reason you said. Like, once you try to be nice a few times and you learn, oh shit, you take that first arrow or two and you're just fucked. Whereas if even a larger group, if you start shooting the person closest to you just immediately as soon as you see them, you have a lot better chance of surviving if you kill that horse and get out of there.
100%, yeah. And that's the position that you want to be. You never want to be surprised in this game.
Do you guys have like standards or expectations for your members as far as like, do you have like any kind of taxes or participation? You said something about participation if they're not like around, but what about like preparedness? Do you have like go bags? Do you like require that for like certain circumstances?
I don't.
Or skill level requirement or anything?
No,
like that?
I don't require anything, to be honest. I keep it pretty casual. So, from a skill level perspective, I understand that, I'm not the best player in this game by any means. And there's a lot of people that are a lot worse than me and may never actually get better, even with training. So what I try to do is the same exact thing I try to do in Legion is, what I want is just a good cohesive force of average and above average players. Honestly, a lot of the PvP gods are usually prima donna, to be honest, from what I've seen in the past. So if I can have all above average players that work together, we'll win fights. And that's really what we want to do at the end of the day. I mean, when it comes to other standards and stuff like that, I don't enforce anything. We really don't do communism or anything like that. We don't tax members or anything like that. But if we work together on something that's for, a mutual structure or something along those lines, then we'll just put that money to it, and it's not a big deal. All I have to do is ask the Discord, say, hey, we need 1,000 gold for this thing, and then I usually just get a bunch of pings that, hey, check your mailbox, and it's there. So nothing crazy from that.
Is there like some members you want to shout out?
The shout out is to all of them, the core members that came over and made this so easy to actually get started and get going. And it is what it is. Maybe we're not exactly where we want to be currently, but we're working toward it far more quickly than I thought we would be able to. We have pings all over the map that say bad company, bad company, bad company. And that's what we want to see. So it gets the name out there. People know that we can actually fill the fort. If we need to, even though we're not, 100% of the time, we absolutely can if we need to. It'll be good advertising and good content for my guys in the future. So those are the guys that I want to thank, the guys that came from Legion, jumped out of guilds that they were in when we came back and formed Bad Company, and then rejoined with us to play with the boys. So that's those are primarily the guys I want to shout out to. If you're out there in the area and you don't want to die, you want to learn how to play the game, we take all comers, we'll train people. Bad Company is available. We are a third party. We will fight for whoever. We don't really care who you are, as long as you pay us. Join Bad Company or die.
Why didn't we do this on horseback? This is magical. You could take me on a
We could have fucking wandered the plains. boy so far. Care of him too.
Bad company, great hosts.
I've replaced many horses in this game.
You know, if I'm gonna be doing this, I should probably like become a horse tamer and self-fund myself on that front. I have a feeling I'm gonna die a lot and lose a lot of horses.
Yeah, the horses here are good for one fight.
Yep, these are shit. These are shit horses. But
Level.
they'll get you across the river, and that's the most important.
It's only up from here, though.
Yeah.
You know. I was like, why did my horse just shit out all its food? I was so confused by that. Hey folks, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you did too. I found the way Boden carries himself impressive. He knows his own strengths and limitations, treats people fairly, and takes full responsibility for his guild when they fail. All the signs of a great leader. Boden and the other core members that form Bad Company have really done a great job of applying lessons learned from their past in order to create a cohesive guild with simple but effective goals and guidelines. I look forward to what the future holds in store for them. And for those who still don't know, Legion didn't die. It joined Bad Company. If you found this guild interesting and want to learn more, I got you covered. In addition to interviewing their leader Boden, I will be producing a guild highlight where I follow the guild during their endeavors and speak with regular members as well. The goal is to give a fuller impression of the guild in a short amount of time with less talking and more action. I'll let you know when it's ready. Beyond that, maybe I can reach out to my old guild's Integrity or Brigands and see how things have developed for them since I left. But for now, this has been your host, Adventus, signing out.